Voices from the Mausoleum is brought to you by the You Run Podcast Network and yourunpodcast.com.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum. I forgot to dim my screens. I'm just going to do that again really quick. There we go. The reflection on my glasses gets a little obnoxious. And welcome back to another episode of Women in Horror, where we are taking some time this month in particular. We always celebrate women and queer creators here, but we just want to take some time and just kind of focus on a few in our community that we really wanted to put a light on and hopefully introduce you guys to if you're not familiar with them. So this is my last 5, and then Steve will finish us up with 6 at the end of the month. I got my handy dandy notebook with my underlines on it so that I can do the socials, because otherwise I don't know what they are by heart. Some of them I do know. And so we're going to start this episode out with a friend and a horror writer and cover creator, Lauren Carter. So I'm pretty sure I connected with Lauren because of Kat or somebody online. I can't remember who it was, but Lauren and I, she's another one that we talk a lot about covers. But Lauren is a really talented writer. I read Your Death by her, and Your Darling Death. And it was a one sit read, which is very rare for me, even for short books. And I was blown away at how unique of a take on a story that was. And I just could not I was like, wow, you know what I mean? I'm in the process of reading through her collection. That's, I mean, really, really creative. I mean, I say creative, and I hope that even though I do say it about a few different people, I hope that when you hear me say that, you realize that what I mean is unique. You know, sometimes something can be really good, but you've heard it before, right? You've read it before, you've seen it before, you know the story. But that doesn't mean that it's not well written or well performed, right? But then sometimes you get these things and you're just like, damn, that's different. That's Lauren. I would kind of put her in a similar vein as like Kat Voleur, like very unique in her takes on the way that she writes things and the stories that she comes up with. And she's a very, very funny. She's sweet. And we interact quite a bit. And I think that what is, she and I are going to work together soon on a project that we won't be able to announce it until a little bit later this year. I think, and it came because they had posted a post about something in particular, and they were like, oh, this would be like a really cool anthology. And I was like, oh, let me just hit you up about that. And so we have a really cool anthology idea that's going to be released, I think, 3rd or 4th quarter of this year that we are very excited about. It's the cover that Ruth Anna did for us. But all in all, they're just very, I don't know, just one of those people when you meet them, you're just like, this is somebody I want to be friends with. She also supports people across the community. They do, resharing, boosting, encouraging, posting thoughtful, kind things on a constant basis. And it's just been a joy to get to know them and to share a space with them because, she's just another one that I think is just a really good asset to the community. They worked a little bit on covers. I do have one. I make it a mean to have almost at least one cover from everybody, because it's like an addiction, in case anyone wasn't aware. But yeah. So Lauren Carter is the first one for this list. Their socials are just at writer L Carter. That's on Twitter, so you can find them there. Yeah, so the next person on my list is Katherine Silva. So Kat has been on the channel twice. We did her Influential, and we did, she was on for my, Underworld Live, when we did the franchise lives last summer. Kat writes survival, thriller-esque kind of books. They are in the horror vein, but they're just a very different take on combining those two elements of a post-apocalyptic world, but in a very more survival action sense, which is really unique. I've read, I think, everything in her Hollow Oblivion series. There's a bunch of those. I do have her Vox series, which is monsters. I think it's vampires. I have not read that one yet. I have the first one. I haven't read that yet. But she also, just like everybody else on these lists, also does quite a bit as far as boosting and working with the community. She's doing these little interviews right now with authors And she's usually posting, book reviews, talking about other things she's excited about, posting and just trying to just engage with the community and be just a positive force in it. And I've seen her do that even when she's posted about not being in a great place. And I think that that's an even harder way to be. It's even harder to encourage positivity when you don't feel very positive yourself. Yeah, so Katherine Silva is just another one that I think is a great asset to the community. Yeah, she's her next project, I cannot remember. She talked about it being Crocodile Tears for like the longest, but the title changed recently, and I cannot remember what the new title is. But she does have a work in progress that's coming out, and I'm looking forward to diving into that too. And yeah, knowing her love for Underworld, I'm very anxious to start Vox, but it's thick boy. So I hadn't quite got there yet. Those books intimidate the hell out of me, and they take me forever to commit myself to reading them. Anyway, but yes, Catherine's she's very nice, she's very fun, very down to earth, and yeah, just has, the couple of times we've been able to interact for the show have been an absolute blast. And I hope to do more stuff with her, maybe in the future, even if it's not an interview, even if it's just another talk. I think Steve and I are going to do more franchise lives again this summer, so maybe there'll be another one she'll want to jump in. But yeah, that's Katherine Silva. She's her social is just Katherine Silva _, and that's on Twitter. And she works with Strange Wilds Press. I have a shirt too. I bought my partner and I both shirts and then stickers as well. But anyway, she's fantastic. Highly recommend keeping up with Katherine if you haven't, and checking out some of her books. When she commits to a character, she really does fall for that story, and and the passion for the story comes through quite vividly when you're reading it. Anyway, so I highly recommend checking her out and getting familiar with some of her stuff. So next on my list is, I feel like I lost. Okay, there we go. Sorry. Is Skellington Fan, Skelly from Instagram. So I know Skelly from I almost said Voices in the U-Run pot. Scott from the U-Run pot. It's late. I'm sorry. I've been playing Stardew Valley for like 4 hours. But I wanted to make sure I took time to get these get my thoughts out on these before my busy week starts. And so I met Skelly through Scott on the U-Run podcast. Skelly is an avid listener for the U-Run podcast. But I did a couple summers ago, I did a giveaway where I did the movie posters with the wooden things like you see Bruce way over here. I did a Jaws one and a Cujo one, and I think Skelly got the Jaws one. I can't remember. I don't remember if it was the Jaws or if it was Cujo, but either way. But Skelly is just, I know I sound like a broken record, but it's such an important part of our community because there are women in horror that don't boost other women. There are women in horror that don't support other creators and other writers and other podcasters. And it's infuriating because I always say if women spent more time boosting each other up instead of tearing each other down or viewing us as competition, we would be running this shit. You hear me? We would be running it. Like, it would be no question. And the fact that, a lot of times when we're talking about moving forward and things that we want to see for women in general, not just in horror, but across the board, one of the things holding us up is other women because they don't want to they want to stop the progress. They want to stay in these dried up old white men. I'm getting off topic anyway, but Skelly is super supportive, share stuff on the Instagram stories that I post, like is engaging. I think Skelly's the one that asked Scott about me returning because Scott and I have banter, and that's, I guess, that's entertaining. It's part of why I like working with him so much. But Skelly's just somebody else. They she's always posting stuff on Instagram about other people, and I don't know, just it was. But yeah, Skelly posts on TikTok and Instagram, and is just an avid horror fan, and all of my interactions have been incredibly positive, and I know for a fact that she's super supportive of other podcasters and stuff. So yeah, and Skellington Fan, it's not, I keep saying, well, Skelly for short because I didn't want to have it, but is just Skellington Fan on Instagram. So definitely recommend checking her out. The next one on my list is Spooky Tuesday podcast. So I don't remember how I ended up following them. It's three girls, and they do horror movie reviews. And when I tell you they are hilarious, they are hilarious. One of my favorite reviews that I think I've seen that they've done so far is their review on Five Nights at Freddy's. And one of the reasons it was so refreshing is because they have no point of reference as far as like the video game. So listening to them talk about it was just a really cool perspective in general. But they're hilarious. Their memes and shit that they use to promote the show is absolutely hilarious. They're funny, they're insightful, and they're real, and they're honest. And I just I eat up their content. They're on YouTube, and they've I think I don't listen to the podcast episodes. I'm a bigger YouTube person than I am a podcast person. I have to make exceptions for the people that only do podcasts only. But most of the time I'm on YouTube. And so they're I do know that they're also on probably like Spotify and the other stuff as well. But again, their stuff's going to be in the description so you can find it and check them out yourself. But it's just a very fun conversation between three people that have a very interesting chemistry and oftentimes come from pretty different places, which is always a good time. But, one of the reasons I wanted to include them was because I think that I do think they're very funny. I do enjoy their conversations, but I've noticed that whenever they have people engaging with them online, they always take the time to engage back. Now, I don't know if all three of them take turns on the social media or who runs it or whichever, but at least from the times I've shared or commented on any of their stuff, I've always gotten interaction back. And as channels and podcasters, as we grow, that gets a little more difficult, but I always have respect for people, no matter how big or small their channel is, who take the time to engage with people who are listening and supporting them. I think that there's something to be said for that mentality because it's not always there. But anyway, so Spooky Tuesday podcast. The episodes come out on Tuesdays. Definitely check them out on YouTube, or I'm pretty sure Spotify. I'm pretty sure that they do podcasts only too. So, but yeah, they're fantastic. Had to mention them. And I know y'all didn't think we were going to get through this list without ever having this person on here. And I know this person's socials by heart. I don't even need to look at my notebook. And that is the amazing cat Voleur. Okay. So if I'm not religious. I think I don't know what, honestly, I don't know what the fuck I believe, but if I were to believe, like, if I were to have like a shrine, right, it would be for Kat, because I just think she's the greatest. Kat's fantastic. Kat is one of my very best, like, Kat and I talk every day just about, like, I'm very, like, I feel like we're very close. She's one of my my favorite. That's not the word I was going to use. She's one of my very best friends, that I met online. And we work together. She fuels my cover addiction. She is just a bananas huge supporter. She's everyone's biggest fan. And that's not an easy thing to do, you guys. There are a lot of people in our community, in the indie horror community. And to be able to put in the time and effort that she does into projects, into, she does formatting and editing. She works with Tasha on this Sinister Scoop. She does reviews. She does, she also works for why can't I say that? Psychotoxin. And anyway, she's just great. She beta reads too. She's done some beta reading, formatting, and editing for me. She's pretty much consistently done most of everything. Tasha's done some editing for me as well. And but even more so than that, her level of support does not stop at things we do like books and content. Her level of support with the people that she genuinely is invested in, which is a lot of people, it extends past that. Like, Kat walks me off a lot of ledges in my real life. Like, she was a huge support for me when I was recovering pretty recently from surgery. Always like keeping me company, giving me support, reminding me that it was okay to take a break. And she has had a rough time of it recently. She's been very, very sick, and the type of sick, though, that affects everything around you. And it's been very difficult for her, because it's very difficult for her to be in a place where she feels she can't be supportive and can't be productive. And, but she's amazing. She's amazing to work with. She is absolutely hilarious. She is the reason that my partner and I are playing Stardew Valley. Like, she talked about it, and I was like, I'm going to finally look into it. And so I'm always messaging her. I'm like, how do I get blue chickens? And so we had like a conversation today about that. And our conversations fluctuate from very busy, talking about work and talking about projects and things we know we're going to do together. And we have a lot of projects under, that are going to be in the future. The biggest one right now, of course, we're focusing on is the zombie epistolary anthology, which was so fun because we look for very different things in stories. So that was a super fun conversation to try to figure out the picks and stuff. And we have like, okay, I'm going to pick, this is the one that I'm not like up for negotiations. She's like, this is my one that I'm not up for negotiations. And it was just, but it's all good. Like, like you ever, if you're somebody who grew up and kind of fight your whole life instead of flight, you always worry that when you're having to have tough conversations that you're going to get a lot of aggression back. And I've never had to have a difficult conversation with Kat where she wasn't super understanding and patient and kind. And she's not afraid to be honest when I need someone to be honest. And so I value her so much. I put her on a pedestal. I really do. But if you know her, if you've worked with her, I can't imagine you don't do the same thing because she's just an absolute fucking joy. We do right now we're doing, horror games in real life, which is doing phenomenally well. You guys are really eating that series up, where we talk about the horror games that she's done in real life, but we also do video game adaptations because we're both gamers. We both grew up as gamers. Kat plays more current games than I do. I'm behind because I just grew, I didn't have a lot of time for that stuff. We're reading horror games for a really, really long time, and I'm just trying to ease back into it. But Kat's amazing. And Kat's Twitter handle is cat_Voleur. And I don't know, like I would find it very strange if you had watched any video I'd ever done before and weren't already following her. But she's so funny, and the stuff that she comes up with kills me. Like, one of my favorite episodes, if you ever want to get a really good idea of what my friendship is like, not just the work relationship, but the friendship with Kat is like, please go watch our Five Nights at Freddy's episode. That is peak Angel and Kat. Like, that is how we are when we're talking about shit all the time. And it's just such a great time. I'm a big fan of her as a horror author. She writes phenomenal stuff. Revenge Arc was her debut novella that came out towards the end of last year. It's done very similarly to a graphic novel. I've talked about it a million times. It's so fucking good. I just finished Mon Amour, which was a Valentine's Day surprise release that she did. It's the entire story is told from the perspective of text messages. Like, this woman kills it on the unique side. And when I tell you, I have no doubt in my mind, like, Kat is going to be one of the biggest voices in indie horror, the more people that discover her. The Desert Island game was fucking phenomenal. I'm reading her collection right now. I'm not done with it. I keep going back and forth. I'm having a hard time focusing on reading right now. I think recovery's gotten a little wonky. She does great work. One of my favorite pieces from the livestock anthology we did was done by Kat. I was a fan of Kat's writing before I ever became her friend. And so I just can't recommend her enough for literally everything. Just befriend her for everything, And anyway. All right. Well, now that I'm done talking up all my friends, that's what this community is, though. I mean, everyone, and I think Steve feels the same way. These people that we get to work with in the community are they become like friends and family, a lot of them. And so it's always exciting to get to talk about them and share them with other people who may not know their accounts or may not know who they are. So anyway, grateful for the opportunity. But that's going to wrap up my half of the episodes for Women in Horror. Steve will be back in 5 days with his list, or 6. It'll be 6 people, but yeah, you get what I'm saying, end of the month. And so thank you so much for coming along on this journey with us. And and I hope that you found some new women in horror to support and follow and keep up with. If you have women in horror that you want to give a shout out to, let us know in the comments. We are all about, extending our community and bringing more people in that we may not know about. So let us know in the comments below. And thanks again so much for hanging out. Hope you have a good rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend, and we will see you in the next one.